Making bread must be one of the easiest baking recipes out there. All you need is flour, water, yeast and salt. But making fluffy, delicious bread with a good oven spring takes some know-how. Things like shaping technique, the right water to flour ratio, baking temperature, and a few but important ingredients. One of those ingredients is Shio Koji, a traditional Japanese marinade made from koji rice, typically used for marinating meat and vegetables. I have a video on how you can make it if you are interested, link in the description. In this video, I will show you how to add Shio Koji to bread dough, where it enhances both flavor and texture. You'll also find the list of ingredients in the description and you can follow along with the video. Let me show you how. We will start by preparing the dry ingredients: 1 kg all-purpose flour and 100 grams of rye flour. This is optional, but the rest of the ingredients are based on a total of 1.1 kg of flour. Sift it, preferably twice, to remove any clumps and to aerate the flour. This is good practice whenever you use flour to make dough. Measure out 10 grams of salt and 5.5 grams of xanthan gum, or 0.5% of the total flour weight. Xanthan gum is the first optional ingredient, but it plays an important role. The more water you can add, the fluffier the breadcrumb will be. So by using xanthan gum, you can add 50 extra milliliters of water without making the dough too sticky. In other words, it makes the dough easier to work with. It also helps the bread retain moisture after baking, which simply means it stays fresh longer. If you choose not to use xanthan gum, reduce the water by 50 milliliters. Last dry ingredient is 50 grams of fresh yeast, or 14 grams dry, and half a teaspoon of sugar. Now measure 700 milliliters of warm water and pour some of it over the yeast. Mix it until the yeast has dissolved. Then sprinkle some flour on top. This will be our starter. It serves two purposes. First, it wakes up the yeast. Second, it lets you check if it's active, so you don't waste all the ingredients and time on bad yeast. It should take less than 10 minutes to become bubbly and ready to use. While waiting on the starter, we have another optional but key ingredient, a piece of dough from the previous bread, which I stored in the fridge. Mine was a bit dry on top, so I added some of the measured water. This simulates in a way how sourdough is made, adding another layer of flavor. Use this only if you plan to make bread every couple of days. Last optional but key ingredient, 100 grams of Shio Koji, mixed with the remaining water and the measured salt. Shio Koji is a salty fermented liquid made from koji rice. Honestly, I'd say this is the most important optional ingredient. To keep it simple, it breaks down starches into sugars, which in turn feeds the yeast, improving dough rise. It also makes the crumbs softer and more tender, and adds a deep, complex flavor to the bread. I could go on, but honestly you won't get it until you try it. If you choose to skip it, then add 50 milliliters of extra water and 10 grams of salt. Now that all the ingredients are ready, add the xanthan gum to the flour and whisk it to distribute it evenly. Next, pour in the yeast starter, add the refrigerated dough and the Shio Koji salted water. Mix everything with a spoon until a shaggy dough forms. This will help reduce the time your mixer needs to work so it can focus entirely on kneading. Before starting the kneading process, add a little bit of oil to the dough. Set up your mixer with the dough hook and knead the dough for 10 minutes on the lowest speed. Once it's done, remove the dough from the hook. Generously flour your work surface and place the dough on it. Now it's time for the first stretch and fold, a technique that strengthens the gluten network, improves the crumb structure, and helps give the bread a great oven spring. With the dough on the table, use quick taps to stretch it outwards into a rough rectangle. Then fold one side over the center, then the other side over that. Now repeat with a long strip of dough. Fold the top third down, then the bottom third up. You'll be left with a compact, square-shaped dough. Flip it and shape it into a ball by using your right hand to push the dough away from you and rotate 90 degrees. Then use both hands to pull it back towards you. Lightly grease the bowl with oil. Place the dough inside it, cover it with a damp towel and let it proof at room temperature until it doubles in size. If the dough sticks to your hand, just rub on some flour to get most of it off. Once the dough is proofed, repeat the same steps as before. Flour the work surface, place the dough on it and stretch it out. This is also the point where you can take a small sample of the dough to save for your next bake. Just place it in the jar with a lid and store it in the fridge. I'd recommend using it within a week. Now perform another stretch and fold. Then shape the dough into a ball. Place it back into the bowl and cover it with a damp towel. This time let it rest for just 15 minutes. For the final stage, I'll be using a proofing basket. It's not necessary. You can let the shaped dough do its final rise directly on a piece of parchment paper. I just personally like using the basket. Before adding the dough, I dust the basket with rice flour to keep it from sticking. Time to shape the bread. Lightly dust your work surface with flour, place the dough on it, and we'll do a slightly different version of the stretch and fold. This time, we don't want to fully deflate the dough. Bring the sides over just like before, but instead of folding, begin rolling the dough tightly. Don't squeeze it. Use your thumbs to gently push the dough away from you as you roll, not down. As you go, seal the underside with each turn to build surface tension that is necessary for a good oven spring. If you don't have a proofing basket, place the dough on a piece of parchment and cover it with a dry cloth. If you do use a proofing basket, flip the dough upside down, pinch the seam on the underside if needed to seal it. Place it in the basket and cover with a dry cloth. Let the dough proof until it has increased in size by about 50%. Don't worry, it will continue rising in the oven and can easily double in size or more during baking. While the dough is proofing, preheat your oven with a Dutch oven inside for at least 20 minutes at 270 degrees Celsius or as high as your oven will allow. For the best oven spring, steam is key. Using a cast iron Dutch oven, I don't want to say it's mandatory because it's not, but it's the best choice. It's an oven within an oven. The tight space traps the steam released by the bread, which delays crust formation and encourages a better oven spring. Another option would be a cast iron skillet with a tray of boiling water underneath it in the oven to create steam, and another tray above the skillet to trap the steam close to the dough. Now that the dough is ready for the oven, lightly spray the surface with water. This adds a bit of extra steam during baking. To control the oven spring direction, we need to score the dough with a razor blade. I made this scoring tool by combining a precision knife handle, a piece of flat wood, and a razor blade. The cut should have a slight curve to it, a bit like a smiley face if you look at it just right. Carefully place the dough in the Dutch oven, cover it with a lid, and bake for 20 minutes at your oven's maximum temperature, but make sure the fan is turned off. After 20 minutes, remove the lid and check for oven spring. I'm always a bit nervous at this point, wondering if it all worked out, especially since I've had some failures in the past. Then continue baking for another 30 minutes with the fan on. If you're using Shio Koji, bake at 180 degrees Celsius. If not, bake at 200 degrees Celsius. Shio Koji causes the crust to darken more quickly. It might look burnt, but it's not. That's just the natural caramelization. Feel free to experiment and adjust based on how you like your crust. You can check if the bread is done by tapping the bottom. It should sound hollow. Before slicing, let it cool completely to room temperature. Not only is it better for digestion, but trying to cut it while it's hot will just tear it apart. I love how fluffy it turns out, how the crust is crisp but not overly tough, and the flavor is just incredible. And that's it. Homemade bread with Shio Koji. Simple and delicious. Enjoy! Thank you for watching. I hope this video helped you learn something new or inspired you to give this recipe a try. And if you do, leave a like, subscribe, and let me know how yours turns out. Want more? Check out another recipe here. I think you'll like it. If you have any questions or ideas, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, bye.